Hello and welcome back to the No Excuses podcast. My name's Anne and I live in the middle of Worcestershire in England with my husband Tom and our Staffordshire Bull Terrier Bertie, who isn't behind me for a change. I'm just going to swing you around very, very slightly. Oh, that looks better to me. It's also a bit skewy, but you may not notice if I don't tell you. How are you? Today is Wednesday the 12th of July and we have got, I'm looking a bit washed out. I did a little test run on the camera because Tom's just altered the casing that the camera sits in and I just wanted to make sure that it was looking okay. And I've got two lights on me and I look a bit washed out, but it's quite bright outside, but it keeps going dark and it keeps really, really raining hard. So we've got to put up with it, haven't we? Because, as you know, this is no professional, not even amateur video making. We have things to talk about today because I have got two finishes. There's a surprise, isn't it? And one of them you don't even know about. No. I've not said, I might have said one word to somebody, but anyway. So yes, this is the No Excuses podcast, which means basically I'm full of excuses, which you well know, and thank you for coming back to watch me, those of you who are long-term viewers, and if you're new here, hello and welcome. Please join in, ask me a question, I don't mind. I am around on Instagram, Ravelry, and I've got an email address as well for the podcast, and all those details are down below. At the moment, we have two make-alongs running. The first one is called Smash the Stash, and I will put the hashtag on the screen. That will end, I don't know, I think I said October, November, so I can get the prize out before the Christmas post rush. And that is basically that any project you're making, as long as more than 50% of it has been in your possession for 6 months or more, or close friends' possession, or the rules are fairly loose in most of my make-alongs. And it can be sewing as well, it doesn't have to be knitting or crochet. And the other one is the flat mail, and the flat mail will also end at about a similar time, I think. I make stuff up as I go along, you'll find that, but I did put, I think, a date in the Ravelry thread. There is a Ravelry thread, and you can also use the hashtag on the screen written below to enter on Instagram. And if you've got any queries or you don't want to use social media to enter, just email me and I'll pop you onto the spreadsheet. I've got well over 100 in the Smash the Stash now, and some of you are such prolific crafters, thinking, why am I doing a podcast if all these other people are making so many things more than me? I must do so much faffing in my life that I pick things up and put things down and But yeah, it's great because a lot of you have put more than 1, 2, 3 or 4 entries in, and that's super. And it, of course, as people always say with mails, it gives you an idea of other things to make. Apart from socks, I don't do socks. Now, the other thing I want to mention quickly is the Destash that I'm doing. I haven't got any further with that for various reasons. I was going to start sewing today, the bags, but I decided to podcast instead because I'm a bit beyond the usual 2-week sort of format that I like to try and stick to. No excuses, remember. But basically, in previous years I've done minis and a bag. This year I'm doing whole skeins that I'm happy to part with, and a bag. Some of the bags that you received last year were quite big. They won't be as big this year. I was using up the fabric, and also some of the fabrics had quite a large pattern repeat on them, so I tried to make the most of those. But this year the bags will be slightly smaller, more sort of sock hat type 1 or 2 skeins worth, you know, of space inside. Yeah, if you've got any preference of things you really don't want, if you really don't want certain colours, let me know. Otherwise, it'll be potluck. You know the sort of thing I deal with, and in the bag will be a skein of wool from my Destash. Those are priced at £33 within the UK to include second class postage. If you're interested in buying one from across the water in any direction, please get in touch and I will be able to give you a sort of fairly accurate cost of how much they will be. I need to make a bag up so I can weigh it, and I'll know. When you send abroad, the weight bands are far more defined than if you're posting within the UK. For instance, a small parcel in the UK, up to 2 kilograms and within certain measurements, which my parcels will be, are £2.99 for second class post. So that's what I'm allowing the 3 of the £33 against. So if you want to buy from abroad, I will include that £3 against the cost of your postage to you, and you'll need to pay the difference. So yeah, if you're interested, let me know. So say I have got some orders in, and one lovely lady said I don't really need any bags, but I might be interested in some yarn, and I'm quite open to that as well. I just want to give yeah, and I know what sort of colours she likes, so I need to get all the skeins down from the loft and put them in a great big bag that I've got behind me, and then I can start putting, because I quite like them to coordinate a little bit if possible. They might not all, but, you know, and then get them, start sending them out. I'm not going to be sending them out now till probably early September, maybe late August. In a fortnight's time, we've got Tom's mum and sister coming, and we've got to get the house sorted before then. So I won't be getting Tom to go in the loft before the end of July now to get any more wool down for me. See what I mean by faffing? I'm just one of the world's greatest faffers. Yeah. Anyway, let's get on to the fun, shall we? I have got 2 finished items, and that progress as well, because, you know, I finished them. So I don't know what to make next, so I'll be talking to you about that. And I've got a bit of incoming and then activity as always. So what have we done? Well, the first one you did know about, because I think I said, and I've alluded to it on Instagram, excuse me, as usual, I'm not ready, and I haven't, it's inside out. And this is my turtle dove. It looks like a mess. At the moment, I need to sew a little something in the back to denote which is the back and which is the front, and I can't even tell which is the back and which is the front, which is the sleeves. This is a pattern by Espace Tricot. It's free, as all their patterns are on Ravelry and on their website, I presume. I got this off Ravelry, and it's a very simple top down loose fitting jumper. Mine doesn't really look that much like a lot of other people's turtle doves, but I'm going to put some photographs in, but you can see that basically, let me roll up to the bottom. What we've got here, the turtle dove has got a 4-inch collar. I'm quite happy to talk about it in general terms because it's a free pattern. It's got a 4-inch collar, and I only wanted to knit a 2-inch collar. So it doesn't sit that high on me, and I also increased stitches because when I first cast on, I kept looking at it. I took it off the needles and it wouldn't go over my big head. Then it's got very deep armholes, which you know is good for me. It's a raglan increase, fairly simple pattern. I've used colours from Yarnworthy. I had a set of, when Stephen West did his Hibernate, Emma from Yarnworthy did a set of 4 or 5 greens, and I bought them in order to make a jumper because I wasn't interested that particular year in doing the shawl. I've not done any of his shawls yet anyway, but one day. And And then I put most of those in the Felix along with that lovely dark green Suri alpaca. And of course that meant that you couldn't really see a lot of the greens, the colours in the greens. But I'm still happy with my Felix, and it's a lovely easy jumper to wear. But also because of the Suri alpaca, you can't really see the raglan details that makes that jumper recognisable. However, so I had 3 balls of the green that you see at the top, and I think it's called Falling For You or Creep. No, it must be Falling For You, and I've used most of that as the contrast stripe in this jumper. I've also got 2 other colours, but I can't decide what they are, from my Ravelry thing, and I think the Garden Party, and you can see that that colour there, the first dark stripe, I did 2 of the pale stripes and 4 of the dark, and then as I went down the jumper, the greens got darker and there's a little bit more orangey and yellow in them. It probably shows up better on the cuff, but I say I've got some photographs that Tom put in. I didn't know what to do for the hem, so I thought I'm going to do a rolled hem. I tried it on and it needed to be a bit longer, but I kept thinking I'd run out of yarn, and I haven't. I've still got probably about 70 grams left between the 2 colours I was using, so I could have made it a bit longer, but I didn't really want it to be longer. I'm experimenting a little bit with shorter jumpers. I don't know why, there's no rhyme or reason to it, but so I did a rolled hem. I just cast off, and when I put it on, it was trying to roll up my body, and it was like a Swiss roll. It sat at the bottom of my jumper. I'm going to tell you a little story about a top I bought once. I bought a shiny, it was a lovely grape colour, shiny like vest top, stretchy, designed vest top, you know, no sleeves, designed to be worn underneath something else. And I only wore it once before I gave it to the charity shop, because I'd gone to work in it under something, and I think the idea was that you could just see it, the neckline under the shirt that I was wearing or whatever. Anyway, I went to the loo about, I don't know, it must have been late at morning or something, and when I and I noticed that the whole of the vest top was sat there on my chest. Now, you know, I mean, I've got big boobs. How did that top get up, creep up over my chest, and then land in a big sort of pleat wedge? It wasn't rolled, it was like, you know, just there on me. Oh, and to this day I think, what? So when I did the roll hem on this and I saw it starting to roll, I thought, this could be like a roller blind. I'll have to have a at the side, you know, when you pull it down. So I immediately took it off and decided I did have enough wool. I took a couple of inches off the length, and then I just did a twisted rib at the bottom and a standard cast off. So it'll behave itself now. Because when I started doing the rib at the bottom, it wasn't a twisted one, and I was doing a 1x1 rib, which is what the neckline is. It was flipping towards me even as I was knitting it, so I didn't want to. I thought, I'm going to try a rolled hem instead. But when I started doing this twisted rib after abandoning the roll hem, it seems to be okay. This hasn't been washed and blocked. I've only finished it a couple of days ago. But yeah, I quite enjoy doing this, and I do like a stripe, and I'm glad I've used the wool. I've had it a couple of years. And then on the sleeves, I haven't done them full length. They're just past my elbow, because the raglans are so deep, and I've got quite short arms anyway. It's yeah, it just, I'm hoping they won't creep up and sit in my elbow. If they do, I might have to lengthen them another inch or two if I can, you know, got enough wool to do both sleeves. But no, I tried it on and it's quite easy to put on, and take off, and which is always important for me these days. And I did 12 rows of the paler colour, 12 rows of the, well, I did 6 stocking stitch, and then I did 6 twisted rib, 1 by 1 twisted rib, so that the amounts are the same. So yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. I haven't weighed it yet, so it needs weighing, and I need to note where the back is. But apart from that, I'm pleased with it, and it's it feels nice. It's got a nice bit of oomph to it, because I quite like that about BFL. It's not tuttiness. You know, it's not softy soft, but it's soft. But it's got a nice bounce. To it, and then this is a reasonable twist in this one as well, because as you know, I was trying to knit a short-sleeved cardigan with my gorgeous bobble and badger blue and green wool, which is a DK weight. This is 4-ply held double, and when I was trying to tidy up again, and when I saw this bag, this I got it in an IKEA bag, freezer bag. I saw it at the back of the thing. I thought, I'm just going to use that. I'm going to go knit a simple jumper and use that wool. So it's very unplanned, and I'm hoping long term, I think, yeah, because I procrastinate, one of those 2 P's, a lot about matching my wool to my pattern. Like it's going to make a really big difference once I've made it. But when you spend a lot of money on some of these wools, you want to make sure it's going to be something you wear. And you know me and I'm doing stuff, but this is to keep. Okay, that's the first finish. Let me just move that to there. Now I'm going to show you the second one, which is going to be Zoutalor, whatever that means. This is, well, you know what it is. As soon as I show you, you'll recognise it. Similar shape actually to the turtle dove, and I've put a little thing at the back to denote the back. A ranunculus. Da, da, da. You can see it's a ranunculus from the yoke pattern, of course. And this, I absolutely love this. Absolutely. I didn't wear my other ranunculus, which is made out of BFL Massam from it's a nettle fibre, not nettle. It's dyed with nettles from. It'll come back to me in a minute. And I started wearing it. I thought, actually, I really like this because it's a thin jumper and it's a nice layer. So I've been a bit impulsive. Instead of planning, I'd undone that V-neck boxy. I'll put a photograph in if I can find a decent one. That I'd knitted out of Biffsugar yarn merino and drops Kidsilk in a pale sort of creamy colour. And I think this is Florence. It might be Miss Havisham. It might be Teasel in here. I don't know. I mean, they were repeatable colourways from Alison of Biffsugar. But I took them out, and these were the top part of the V-neck boxy, and I washed and dried and reskeined them so they were less crinkly, because I just wasn't wearing the boxy. I just didn't feel the love for it at all, although I like the colours. I thought if I can get a ranunculus out of the pale colours, then that'll be really happy without going into the purples that you see at the bottom. And I have, you know, I haven't got a lot left over, but I've done it. And I have knit it to pattern. I've done the 48-inch chest, which obviously ends up a lot bigger than a 48-inch chest, and I've done sort of short sleeves, really. The only mods I did, the front and the back short row shaping. I'm not sure why there's front shaping, short row shaping, but I don't. Before I knitted my previous one, I'm not sure whether I'd seen it on one of the projects, but I immediately went to the stitch count where you start the yoke, because I didn't like the look of the stretched rib on the some of the photographs I saw, and also, as I said with the turtle dove, I have got a big head, and it just didn't seem like enough stitches to go over my fat head. Your head can't be fat. Anyway, yes. So and that works for me. So yeah, I've done it as the pattern. I tried to do it as long as I could get away with. I've done a standard cast off. I think it's 1 by 1. Again, twisted rib. Then the sleeves, I just did, I think, 4 rows of twisted rib on those sleeves, which is slightly different from the pattern. And then I picked up and knitted the same number of rows, I think, on the neck, just to give it a finish. I wondered about I-cord, and I thought, no, I'm going to do rib, because I think it sits, it don't matter really, but I'm happy with it. It does look a bit, I haven't blocked it. What I did, I put it on the blocking boards, didn't stretch it because I don't need it to be any bigger, and I spritzed it with a water and eucalypt mix, and I left it to dry in the sun. It wasn't a very sunny, harsh sunny day, just for a couple of hours, and it started raining, so I had to get it in, but luckily it was dry by then. And I have tried to start with the paler colour at the top, and then it goes down, and then it definitely Florence at the bottom, because a few episodes ago I showed you that I've got a jumper's quantity, or a cardi quantity, of Florence from Alison in a BFL high twist, and I will be knitting that up. I was going to make the Mayma cardigan, but I'm still wondering about the half brioche or the honeycomb stitch. If I go wrong, will I be able to fix it? I'm overthinking that, obviously. I should just get on with it, really. So yeah, I'm really pleased, and it's cropped as well. Now the trouble is, if you've got big boobs, I personally don't like the look. I mean, bearing in mind I'm 62, I mean, each to their own. I do like it when people wear different clothes, and you know, if that's what they want to do, then that's great. But for me, I thought, I don't want the jumper to end before my boobs do, because I don't know whether that would be a good look, especially when I'm sat down in a chair. I'd look a bit unfinished or thrown together. So I had to make sure it was long enough for that. And that, again, with me moving like that or whatever, that it wouldn't ride up. So I haven't worn it out because it's been far too warm. And I was going to say that the stitches are a bit uneven because I've reused the wool. But I am super duper happy with it. Because I've reused it and it's Kidsilk, it's not anywhere near as fluffy as the first jumper was, but it's still really, really nice and soft. I think when I felt the fabric on my boxy, it felt a lot, what's the word, smoother. Because the yarn had only, hadn't been pre-knitted, but also it was a tighter gauge. So this is a looser gauge, and I've just gone for it. I've just, knitted it as the pattern, and I've enjoyed it. And I did it in 4 days, I think. So, yeah. So I'm pleased with that. And Ranunculus, would you believe it? I was thinking, I'm just going to knit what I want, I'm going to do what I want. And I need to stop thinking that I need to knit things that are going to last me a long, long time, because otherwise I'll never get through my stash for a start. And then enjoy them for what they are. And I'm going to go and look at some more of the weirder, well, I'd say weirder, the non-classic designs that are on Ravelry. and elsewhere, because I fancy something a bit different. So there you are. So that's my surprised finished items, and I'm pleased with myself, I must admit. As Martin of 365 says, you're polishing his halo. Well, yes, if I could reach the top of my head, then I would polish my halo. There's no good me going like that, because that infers that I've got a slipped halo, and that'd be a whole other discussion. Let's move on quickly. So what to do next? Got any ideas? I don't know what to do next, and I've got nothing on the needles apart from the Rika hat that I started at the 12 cast-ons, and my advent stockings, and I just don't feel the love for them. I think I will finish them at some point, maybe in front of the telly in the winter, and I'll just do one a night or half a night or something, you know. But and I'm also thinking, well, I've done a lot of garments recently, I've done a lot of knitting for me. I'd like to do another shawl. I have got a shawl to do for Mom, and I picked out the pattern. It's the probably going to be the Bejeweled by Truly Myrtle, by Libby Johnson of Truly Myrtle, and it's a longish, shallow crescent. Mom would quite like a scarf. She wears the other scarf I made her, but it's very square, and I get bored just going so many stitches turning. I suppose I could find a lace pattern. I've downloaded a couple of free ones, but I just didn't feel the love for them. And she can only have what I like knitting. If I don't like knitting something, I won't knit it. You know, life's too short. Get on with it. You know. Well, I never leave enough space between my segments, and then when I'm trying to edit, if I decide that all my yattering should be coming out of the video, I mean, you're lucky. You only hear a summary of what I talk about. You're very lucky. I yatter on for ages, but yeah, let's talk about incoming. I'm just going to get a couple of things out to show you, because of what I've ordered, but I haven't got the paperwork with them. But when I was doing my Ranunculus, or the turtle dove, I've decided that I quite like knitting my sleeves on short tips and short cables. I bought the flyers to do that other one, that the long sleeved cardigan that I did recently, or jumper, I can't remember what it was, and I got on quite well with it. But I have got this, I've had it about 3 or 4 years now, and it's the Chiagoo Shorties tips, and I've started using it. I've not used it, and I felt a bit bad about it. It's very expensive. In my mind, it's very expensive, but it's a super little kit. They do 3 different versions. They do a smaller diameter, smaller size needle, and they do, which is the red one, they do this one, which is the middle one, and they do a yellow one now, which is bigger sizes. But I looked at the price of the yellow one, because I thought, would it be cheaper? Because quite often if you buy a kit, it's cheaper than getting all the cables and everything separate. But I thought, well, I'm not going to have all these things on the needles, because I'm not, I'm a fairly I knit on one thing at once, or 2 things at once. I'm not in need of several cables, so it wasn't cost effective for me to buy the yellow kit, which I think was about £108. So you get this little pouch. It's very well made, as in lots of things to do with Chiagoo are, and you get in there, you get some tips, and you get 3-inch tips from size 3.5mm, which is a US 4, up to 5mm, which is a US 8, and you get a 3-inch tip. I've got nothing to compare it with, because if I can't hold both hands up, and you get a little baby 2-inch tip. They're not so easy to do with, but sometimes needs must, and I find it can be quicker than using DPNs, you know. And we've all got our preferred method of doing small circumferences. And then also in here you get another little bag with T-pins, stitch markers and end stoppers, and you also get a connector so you can lengthen the cables. The cables that come with the kit are the blue ones, so they are the small, not the miniature, they're a small connector, and you get a 5-inch, a 6-inch and an 8-inch. Now these are the blue ones, and they don't spin like the higher do. You know, like where your connector joins the cable, the higher spin. But the higher cable is only plastic, and this has got a metal core. Now I bought some more connectors. They're so tiny you won't be able to see them, but they're for converting the small to the bigger tips that I've got, which I'll show you in a minute. But they didn't come with the original kit, those little connectors. But what did come was a little gauge. So you get quite a bit in the little kit. As I say, I think they're all about £100 and something now. But if you like your Chiagoos and you think you're going to use them, then they do become cost effective if you're going to get your hours out of them. So I needed some 6.5mm for one of these jumpers. I can't remember which. So I bought some 3-inch tips to go with them. That was a couple of weeks ago. And then this week, to finish the either the Ranunculus or the turtle dove, I bought a flexible cable. I've took the paperwork out so I can fit it into this packet that the blue pouch came in. The cardboard meant I couldn't quite get it in. And this is a silver, I think they're called twist, it should say on here actually. It's a silver cable, and it's a 360 swivel. I don't know, I got the impression they were saying they were new. So you get a silver cable which has got a metal core in it, and it twists. But that is the large connector, as opposed to, let me show you the small connector. There, so I'll show you, put them both together. Not very good at holding things up. If it doesn't look any good on the screen, I'll take a photo. But you can see there's a slight difference in size, and that's why I've got the converters, so that I can use any tip with any cable then from this range. A couple of years ago, Tom bought me the Chiagoo, the middle size is the red twist that Mum's got at the moment, because a long time ago she was knitting a cardigan, weren't you, Mother? I'm going to get her on this podcast soon, but I'm not going to be held responsible for her, okay? Just bear that in mind. There will be a written, what's the word? Yeah, there'll be a written statement at the beginning of the podcast saying I have no responsibility for the content. I'm going to get hit now. But yeah, I'll get Mum on here and she can talk about the crafting and things she's made over the years. So yeah, so you in there you get quite a bit, and it's all well made, and I keep it all together. I haven't made myself a separate pouch, but I think I might have to, because I'm getting more and more things to put in here, and I'm going to run out of room. So as well as that swivel cable, and this was all from the little knitting company, I bought another set of connectors, the same size. I have kept the cardboard with that actually, because I wanted another set of connectors in case I had two different sizes on the needles at one time, you know, one for knitting the body and one for knitting the cuff, for instance. I bought a smallish red cable. These are the twist red cables, and they've got a large connector as well. So just as with higher, when you're adding to your interchangeables, and I love my interchangeables, I'm I think I'd rather invest in the interchangeables and have a lot of fixed, although I've got a few fixed circulars, because you can change the tips without having to, change the cable and things if you're careful. So I ordered that, and then I ordered lots of tips. I ordered so now I've got a 5. Now I've got a 5 in the kit. I've got a 5.5, 6.5, and a 7 millimetre in the 3-inch tips. And I think that's all I'm going to need now for the time being. Is that a 7? Well, that's interesting. That's a 6.5. Oh yeah, 5.5, 6, 6.5. That's what I ordered. So I've got all those in 3-inch, and I'm hoping that will do me for most of my coughs where I need a bigger size. It's a long explanation, but I do tend to go for my hires most of the time. If I get my Chiagoos back from Mum, I will use them as well. But I'm not complaining because I've got loads of needles, and I've also got quite a few Knit Pro Symphonies that I do use occasionally, especially if I'm knitting with cotton, something like that. Then I prefer to use the Symphonies. So there we go. Pop all them back into there because I like to keep them. Some of these things are so small, where you've got the cable connectors where you can lengthen the cable. It's a tiny, tiny little thing with a hole in the middle so you can put a T-pin in. But in order to get it done up, the first one, putting the one cable on is easy. But to put the second cable on, you've got to spin that cable to get it onto the screw. My hands don't work that properly some days. It can be fun. Anyway, so that's my purchases. And Chiagoo and say are not cheap. They are, I think they're slightly more expensive per tip than hire, but it might depend on where you get it from. So it's a little knitting company. They don't sell a great deal of wool yarn, but and what they sell is nice. But yeah, I compared prices there with a couple of other companies, and they were more practical at sending little things to the post at a large letter rate instead of a small parcel rate, and it just saved me a couple of quid on postage compared to a couple of other companies I looked at. My hires I tend to get from Woolstack if I want them, because they're very good, and both of the companies are very good for delivery. So that's my one incoming. So my stickers are lifting off my page. Now, when I went to Wonderwall, I found Libby from Needle and Thread, and she was right at the end. I don't know if you saw her. She was right at the end, near where we met to have a drink and a sit down, and right at the end, hiding around the corner. And she's quite a quiet girl. She's nice. Her colours are gorgeous. She's just really, really good tonals. And I chose a rust colour from her in her BFL 4-ply. And then I changed my mind and I thought, no, I've got plenty of rust. And I went towards the brown end of things a little bit more. Now, I hadn't heard from Libby. She said to me a couple of weeks after Wonderwall that she was going to dye them up in a fortnight. And I still hadn't heard from her last week. So I wrote to her. I didn't get any response, but she sent me the wool. I just hope she's okay. I was a bit, I wouldn't say annoyed, but a bit peeved that, she couldn't say, well, I've popped it in the post, I've done it. It's almost like I was nagging her, but because I got my fingers burnt a few years ago with a dyer who I'd paid up front for a Speckles club. And I knew she was having, not Libby, but this other lady was having poor mental health at the time. I left it, and although I'd paid with PayPal, I left it too long to claim off her. Now, she admitted that I owed her the money, and I've still got that in writing, although I'm never going to get it. But in the end, she kept saying she was going to dye things, and then she didn't, and she got accused of all sorts of things like theft off other people, but I didn't engage in any of that on Facebook. But in the end, she just stopped dyeing. She sold her pans and she stopped dyeing, and I never got anything. And you know, to this day, I'm owed about 60 quid, which is a bit too much to say goodbye to, and I'm annoyed about that. But Libby has sent me the most gorgeous wool. I don't know how well it's going to come out. This is a BFL. I think it looks like it's a fairly high twist, and it doesn't have a colourway. It's 100% blue face Leicester, so no nylon. It's super wash, and it's 150 grams, so it's 600 meters, and I've got 4. Now 4 times 6 is 2,400 meters. So anything I want to make now, where I keep saying I haven't got enough meterage, I can now make. So ideas on a postcard, please, or below, or whatever, on Instagram, what I can knit with this. I love this. I think this suits me. The way I think that things suit me is I hold them up to my face. I've got a little bit of powder on today and a bit of lipstick. I probably still look washed out, but if I think it makes me look healthier or healthy, then I think the colour suits me. If I hold a colour up to me, a couple of tops I saw in M&S the other day, they made me look pale, and for me that means it doesn't suit me. So that's my little test that I do. But I knew by looking at this, I'm fairly good now, years of practice, of knowing what I think would suit me. So this is gorgeous. Got no name, and I do like her new branding as well. And I hope that Libby's going to be up and running again soon, because she, oh, that was upside down, sorry, because she is really good at tonals and colours and things. And she went to the whole sort of rainbow, like a muted, dull rainbow. Beautiful. So yeah, what shall I knit? Now, I've always wanted to do the honeybee cardigan by Laura Chow. There's the Chiagoo cardigan as well that I've got the pattern for. I think because it's a high twist, I think I'd like to do a lace pattern in it, because I think that's going to look nice. So yeah, and I've got plenty of wool, so I'll do some swatches, I think, and see what looks nice in it. But if you've got any ideas of what you think will work on somebody who's short and fat, wide I should say, short and wide, then, because obviously some bigger things don't, like lots and lots of cables, don't always work on me. So yeah, so yes, if you've got any ideas, let me know. Not I'll take any notice of you, but you might give me sort of an idea of, push me towards a certain area, or I think, oh no, I've never noticed that before. I quite like the look of that. I can tell Bertie's in here. A slurp of tea, master smell. He's on his little bed. So that's it. How long have I been talking? 45 minutes. And I don't think I'm going to cut a lot of this out today. Sorry. Activity. Right, let's move on to the last segment. Just after I saw you last time, I had my hair cut. So it's a bit flat today. Got washed yesterday, it's a bit flat today. And then I went out the following week with Elaine and Liz. We went to Merry Hill, and I did take a photograph of us sat outside. Well, them two sat outside the Wetherspoons. They are both visually impaired, and they've both got sunglasses on. It was a bright day, but we were sat under cover. It's quite windy as well. It was almost too cold to sit outside, but the trouble with it's called the Abraham Derby at Merry Hill, the Wetherspoons is, it's quite dark inside, but then I think a lot of Wetherspoons are. Anyway, yeah, we had yet again, we had a rum and cola, and the chicken strips with whiskey glaze sauce, and Liz was being sanctimoniously well behaved, and she had, I'm laughing because excuse me, never lasts long. She had spicy rice, then ate some of my chips, which is fine. I think she finished my chips off actually. But the spicy rice is nice to have with it, and sometimes the chips are a bit meh, but they were nice, very hot this time. Then for pudding, we bought from Asda. We had about 3 hours later, we had a coffee, and after that we ate a cake each. And Elaine bought us she bought a pack of frangipan tarts from Asda. And they were a bit spongy, but they tasted really nice. And when you consider how much things cost these days, so £1.50 that for quite a decent size frangipan tart from Asda for 6. You know, it's a no-brainer really, isn't it? Yeah, did I buy anything apart from food? I don't think I did this time. We didn't really... I had a look around at Marks', nothing sort of grabbed me. And I'd gone to Merry Hill with my mother. Had I been to Merry Hill with my mother before and bought a pink... No, I hadn't actually. Bought a pink t-shirt from there, which I think will look nice under my Ranunculus. And I'm also looking to see if I can find a cream colour one. And I think M&S do a 3/4 sleeve that might go nicely under it. I wear a lot of t-shirts. By the way, what am I wearing? I'm wearing my summer stripes cardi, which you would have seen in previous summers. I just took this on if I'm at home. I haven't dressed up for you, I'm sorry. And it's knitted. It's 50% cotton, 50% acrylic, and it's a Sirdar yarn that's been discontinued many years ago, but it washes and wears beautifully. I saw the other day, sure they do a similar mix, actually, double knit weight this is, and the pattern is a pattern I got out of a magazine. I don't even know which magazine it was now. So it's got a little collar on it that keeps turning up, so I can't reach it, so I don't bother turning it out. I must have done something wrong with it to do that. Anyway, that's what I'm wearing. So yes, I went to Merry Hill with Mum. It was raining, really pouring down with rain. It was been just after I spoke to you last time. And we were going to go to Redditch just to get me out of the house because Mum was going away for a week with my sister in Oxford, near Oxford. She took my mum down to Hastings to see my brother. And Mum stayed in the house with my brother Neil and his wife Iris. And Juliet and Ali they've got a caravan that they tow, and they were on quite a nice site nearby, so they met up as well. And they had, I think my mum stayed 3 nights down in Hastings, and then a night either end with my sister, because the journey took them a long time. Because, you know, Leslie was saying, if you watch Leslie of Not Quite Enough Yarn, Leslie was saying it had taken her a long time to get to the hospital to visit her relative because of roadworks. Well, my family were going in the opposite direction that day, or the day after, and they got stuck in the same traffic roadworks, and it was pretty horrendous apparently. I mean, and that was off the M25. The M25's a bit of a, you know, start-stop traffic jam at the best of times. Anyway, I'm waffling. So, yes, went out with Liz and Elaine, and then I was at home for a few days, which was nice. It allowed me to finish my turtle dove and my ranunculus. And then this Monday, I went to Longbridge with Mum. She was going to come into Droitwich. She said the weather keeps... We've gone from having that really hot spell and being baking every day to having showers, and it just suddenly comes and throws a bucket of water on you, and you're like... But when the sun's out, it's still really warm. So on Monday, Mum was going to come and meet me in our local town, and I was going to, she was going to come on the bus, and I was going to meet her in the town in my chair, because I've got a prescription to pick up. But the weather forecast was so bad, we ended up going to Longbridge again. So I went and had a cup of tea, or we had hot chocolate actually, in the cafe that's in Sainsbury's. It's not a Sainsbury's cafe. I did a bit of shopping there, then looked round M&S, and Mum bought a lovely long denim skirt and a jacket, a waterproof jacket that was half price, both sea salt. Yesterday I met Judy and Wendy that I've worked with for many years, and as Judy said, we've been together to our 40s, 50s, 60s, and those two in their 70s. Judy's 80 next year and Wendy's 74. Judy's birthday's today and Wendy's is in 4 days' time. So we met up at a local garden centre and had a drink. And while we're there, an even older lady came up and said hello to us that we also worked with. And the last time we saw her, she'd just getting over a hip replacement and she was in agony. And you don't always have a lot of pain once you've had your hip done. Mum wasn't. But she was really struggling, and she looked so much better when we saw her yesterday, because that was a year ago, you know, and she was walking better and everything. So so that was nice to have a catch up. We talk a lot about medical things at our age. What isn't wrong with us? Yeah, and then tomorrow I'm seeing my friend Denise in. She's coming up here, and we're going to go to the local town. And I'll get my prescription. Now, I'm not going to tell you about the slug. He doesn't survive, so if you don't want a story about a slug that doesn't survive, then... But I've noticed the trails under my craft table, and Tom had got on his hands and knees and had a look. And he couldn't see anything, and, you know, wiped them away with a cloth and vacuumed them up a bit. And they kept coming back, and I thought, eventually, this slug is going to come out, and I'm going to catch it as we go to bed, because I park my electric chair in here to charge overnight. And a couple of nights ago, I was like, the slug's here, and it was about 3.5, 4 inches long, crawling back under the table. So he went and got some loo roll and put it in the toilet. So I get into my manual chair, go into the loo, because we're on our way to bed, and the slug is already halfway up towards the rim, you know, where the water comes out, trying to escape out of the water. You know, I mean, when you consider it's a toilet that has got very shiny sides, and he's already been in water, they get rained on, I suppose. So I couldn't sit on the loo, I had to flush it down, I'm afraid. It might have lived when it got out of the other end. But no, slugs, I wouldn't scream when I see them like a babola, but, you know, I don't see any purpose in them. So they, I'm afraid that one had to go. It paid the penalty for getting into my home. So I think with that slimy tale, I shall leave you. Bert had his annual check-up the other day, and he's doing okay. He's now on paracetamol regularly, but he's got us up twice the last 2 nights, so we don't know whether he's getting a bit of indigestion from his last paracetamol. You only give him half at a time. But yeah, but he seems a bit more lively and wanting to play, so the pain, we're hoping that it's meant the pain has subdued a bit, and then if he's in less pain, if he's arthritis, he'll feel like moving a little bit more. So it's all good in the end. It's just be nice to have a whole night's sleep. I'm alright because I just lie in bed till I want to get up, but Tom always gets up before me. Anyway, enough waffle. I'm going now. I will see you hopefully in a fortnight. I'll put pictures of things I've talked about, especially if I haven't been able to show you things accurately by holding them up. But yeah, what have you been up to? Let me know, please. I'd love to hear from you, and I mean that. I do like to hear what you're making, and if you've got any ideas for this lush stuff, then get in touch as well. So I will see you very, very soon. You take care. Look after yourselves. Bye.